Hello, Sofa Squad, and welcome back to the damn sofa. That's the sofa back there, along with our little mascot, Mr. Roscoe P. Coltrane. And my name is Paul. Welcome to the channel if you're a first-time viewer, and welcome back if you're part of the Sofa Squad. Now, this is my main channel here. We do deeper dives, stuff like we're going to be doing today, longer videos, that kind of thing. If you want to follow my other channel, it's more like a podcast channel. I go live sometimes. I do quick updates and talk about headlines, that kind of stuff. Check that channel out. I'll put a little thing on the screen here for them, and the links are down in the description. Now for today, okay, you click the damn thumbnail, here we are. Y'all, we are going to be discussing and reading through Chad Daybell's book, One Foot in the Grave. Here it is on my little Kindle app phone. So the other day I went live. Now I've heard about this book and I actually had downloaded it a long time ago, but I read the first few pages in it and I was like, oh my god, I just could not believe what I was reading. So I was like, I'm gonna have to read and comment along this or on this as we go. I probably will be doing my Chad Daybell voice as I read through this, and other things, because some of this is absurd, but other parts of it, I'm like, it's almost like you're reading like what went through their minds when they did, or his at least, when they allegedly, did these crimes. So that's it. This is probably going to be a multi-part thing because we're going to see how much I can get through in each section. So that's it. So go ahead and pull it up. This is going to be like a less edited type video, where I'm just going to be reading through, doing that kind of thing. So just know that. And without further ado, let's go ahead and jump in. Okay, so today, kids, we're reading One Foot in the Grave. That did not age well. It's by Chad Daybell. Okay, The Strange but True Adventures of a Cemetery Sexton. Okay. Chapter 1. Step inside if you dare. Okay, so here we go. We're going to begin. Roscoe, buckle your damn seatbelt up, buddy. This is going to be rough. Are you looking for spooky true stories, bizarre occurrences, and to get a tingle in your loins? I'm just joking. I didn't say that. I said to get a tingle up your spine. If so, you found the right place. Come inside the cemetery gate and ignore the mysterious shadows that seemingly dance away. Some people really love cemeteries, but a graveyard can be a frightening place, especially at night. Even in the most amusing settings, such as in Disneyland's Haunted Mansion, the cemetery is shown as a place where you'll get scared out of your wits. This portrayal might be on target. Let me tell you what happened to my neighbor while she and her friends were approaching our local cemetery during a fierce snowstorm. Now, be pre-warned. What I'm getting ready to read here, y'all will recognize that, this is just like I don't even call it old wives' tale, but this is like your standard ghost story that has been told in every format. I've heard this in so many different ways. So the fact that he chose to use this as what happened to my neighbor and like pick one of the most cliche ghost stories, I think is very telling. Okay. So, as their car drove slowly past the cemetery gate, my neighbor saw a middle-aged woman walking along the side of the road carrying a baby in her arms. She also noticed that the woman appeared terribly sad and wasn't wearing a coat, although the baby was wrapped in a small blanket. My neighbor and her friends decided to give the woman a ride. It took a few moments to turn the car around, but as they drove toward the cemetery gate, the woman was nowhere to be seen. They parked the car and searched for her, thinking she had taken shelter under a tree. But there was one peculiar problem. Their own tire tracks were the only marks in the fresh snow. There weren't any footprints to be found. Golly jeepers. He didn't say golly jeepers. Ouch. The snow was smooth and untouched along the road. Just like my loins. I'm just joking. There's going to be so many loin references in this damn thing. It was smooth and untouched Just like my loins. Anyway, sorry. Okay, so the snow was smooth and untouched along the road where the woman had been walking a few moments earlier. My neighbor isn't the only person to mention this sad-faced woman to me. This ghostly apparition has been seen on at least 3 different occasions by cemetery visitors, each time in the middle of a snowstorm. Okay, so again, you've probably heard that story told in some format, right? So we're going to move to the next section of the book, okay? It's called Life Among the Headstones. Some people just call me a gravedigger, but my official title was Cemetery Sexton. However, a 4-year-old visitor once called me the Sexy One. That is inaccurate, but kind of catchy. Now, I may mention this when I read this in the live chat. This is one of the first parts, and I was like, oh, what? Why would you put that in there? That is so creepy. If you want to tell a ghost story, creepy story, tell that, right? Not some damn used up story about a woman disappearing in the damn snow. Why would you put that in there and associate those 2 things? It's just so creepy. And I do not believe for a second that happened, right? Which is the other part to where I'm just like, yeah, that, whatever. Anyways. Let's continue. Sexton is actually an English word for one who maintains church property. Since most English graveyards were originally situated next to churches, the word became linked to cemetery maintenance workers. But if the name still seems strange, just refer to me as many cemetery visitors did. They called me the guy. Such as, hey, are you the guy who runs this place? Yeah. Now, that's some of his dry humor I think he's trying to put in there, and I'm just like, oh my God. Again, what did people see in this man? What did people see in him? What was he serving that made people lap it up and do the crazy stuff they did, right? Anyways, next section of the chapter 1, Death is Now a Mystery. Now, this part gets creepy, y'all, okay, and you're going to see why. Death has developed a frightening reputation in our modern world. We sometimes forget that for thousands of years, the burial of a loved one was usually taken care of by the family itself. I mean, y'all, it gets worse. Even some of our great-grandparents were accustomed to helping bury a family member. Being asked to dig a relative's grave was commonplace. It damn well makes you wonder what went down. But see, then you think about it, because I'm thinking, did he ask Lori? But then I'm like, well, Alex was there. He's a family member, right? Anyways, today we usually die in hospitals. A mortician takes away the body. The strangers handle the burial. Family members rarely see the body except at a brief viewing, which adds to the feeling of mystique and disconnection from the deceased. But death and burial are things we all face in our families, and a little education on the subject matter is better than the confusion and fear I saw among many funeral participants. So in these pages, I will debunk many graveyard myths, toss in a few true stories from around the world, like that damn ghost story, and leave some of my own experiences that leave little doubt that something awaits us beyond this life. I mean, y'all, this is back in 2001, I think, so I hope it is an eye-opening experience for you. All I ask is that you please leave any preconceived notion at the cemetery gate. Yeah. Okay, so how low do you go? I mean, some of these titles, y'all, I'm like, I cannot with this, right? Okay, so here we go. Please hold. You may have heard that when a person is buried, he is 6 feet under. That depth is more myth than fact. Actually, we dig the hole about 5 feet deep, which is sufficient. This part just gets, I can't. The days are long gone when you could wrap a body in a blanket and bury it along a trail or in a cave. Today, nearly all communities require that burials take place in a cemetery, and a person's casket must be placed in a concrete vault. The typical burial vault is 8 feet long, 3 feet wide, and 3 feet tall, with a lid on. That means the top of the vault is about 2 feet below the ground once the burial is complete. I had to unearth a few burials, and I assure you that 2 feet of soil on the vault top is plenty. Now, again, this just is, I mean, my God. Okay, where is the burial vault? People often ask, why haven't I ever seen a burial vault? Here's the secret. The vault is already in the grave when the funeral arrives. Dun dun dun. A vault company employee arrives a few hours before the funeral and puts the vault in the hole, minus the lid. The employee then places the wooden planks along each side of the grave to avoid a cave-in. The vault employee covers the planks with astroturf before leaving. He also puts a lowering device across the hole. This device has straps, and the casket is placed on these straps. When the family has departed after the service, the vault worker simply flips a switch on the device, and the straps slowly lower the casket into the vault. The worker then removes the straps, puts the vault lid on, and packs up his equipment. At the next graveside service you attend, look down the hole before the casket is placed on the lowering device. You'll usually see what appears to be a white slab of concrete. That is actually the bottom of the vault. Okay, didn't know that, if that's true. The next section of chapter 1 is called Disappearing Dirt. Okay, when we dug up a grave, the backbone... I'm sorry, hold on. That's completely wrong. I said that wrong. When we dug up a grave, the backhoe operator put the dirt in a dump truck and hauled it away. Once the funeral was over, we brought the dirt back and dumped it in the hole. We then tamped the dirt down and replaced the sod. Some cemeteries just pile the dirt next to the hole and cover it with a tarp, but it is harder to clean up that way. Of course, not every burial goes smoothly. The following incident happened during my first week as a part-time cemetery employee. The sexton and I had just buried a wealthy older woman when we saw the funeral hearse come speeding back down the road toward us. The mortician hopped out and breathlessly shouted, "Hold everything, the family wants her wedding ring." We were already tired. We protested, but we finally agreed to re-dig the grave. 20 minutes later, we had removed enough soil to carefully lift off the vault lid with the backhoe. Once the lid was out of the way, the mortician hopped down into the hole and opened the casket. There the old lady was, as peaceful as a dove. The mortician grabbed her lifeless hand and tugged mightily on the cherished ring. After a lengthy struggle, he finally worked the ring off her stiff finger. He put her hand back where it had previously rested and shut the casket. Now, personally, I think he made all this stuff up, right? But let's keep going. He angrily climbed out of the hole and said, "Sorry about that. The family should have decided they wanted the ring before she was in the ground." Seeing that woman's body shook me up for a few days, and I was glad to learn that redigging a grave was a rare occurrence. The incident also showed me that grave robbing isn't a viable option in this modern era. Such a task is basically impossible to do without a backhoe. Even then, it is too much work. What would you take, some jewelry and a gold fillings? Don't waste your time. I mean, why would you even think about that, right? It's just so weird to hear him talking about stuff. The side of the body shook me up, but then and look at where he's at now, right? It didn't seem to bother him now. Blissfully going off to Hawaii with his, little tart Lori. I mean, this just blows my mind. Okay, chapter 2. Who will bury me? A cemetery sexton is at the center of a large system of people who will keep a cemetery running smoothly. To make the stories in the subsequent chapters more understandable and entertaining, I will introduce you to the people who know more about burials than most ghosts do. Yeah, his humor, it's just too much. Okay, morticians. This profession is obviously linked with death in cemeteries. In reality, morticians aren't at the cemetery very often, except during funerals. They usually spend most of their working hours at the mortuary. The mortuary business is often a family affair, and the funeral director is usually a descendant of the original founder. He mostly handles the administrative side of things, but mostly helps out during busy times. Each mortuary also has at least 2 other certified morticians. I greatly admire these people who have to face bloody, stomach-churning parts of the business. Again, doesn't age well. He'd seem to be doing just fine with this at his own hands and not even doing a legal mortician thing, but what he has allegedly done. Okay, the gender. The typical mortician is an older gentleman, but a growing number of women serve as morticians. In fact, according to the Funeral Consumers Alliance, 40% of graduating morticians are now women. Appearance. Morticians are known for being dignified and well-groomed. The men must always wear a dark suit and tie, and the women wear stylish business attire. Essential qualities. and this is how, well, the reason I'm saying it like this is, I don't know if you could see this, but see how he does this and then does that. It's almost like he's defining each thing in there. That's why I'm reading it this way. Essential qualities. This is a job for someone with a strong stomach and a good sense of humor, along with a true sense of compassion. Education. Full-time morticians graduate from an extensive college program that teaches them the basic skills they need. Smaller mortuaries often hire part-time assistants who do the hair, fingernails, and makeup of the deceased, or who drive the hearse to the cemetery. It really is a demanding job. It really is a demanding job, ranging from late night pickup calls to the embalming process. Of course, being a mortician doesn't always work out. One of my mortician friends left the business to sell computers at a local office supply store. He just didn't have the stomach for it. Who can blame him? And I'll have to do a story time on my experience when I worked at a hair salon at one point, and my boss went, and a client of ours passed away. He did her makeup. I went there for the latter part to kind of help or whatever, and I'll have to tell, like, it's a definite art, right? It's not like normal stuff. Anyways, maybe I'll do that on like members or Patreon or something. Anyways, let's keep going. We're going to the next section. Cemetery secretaries. Pardon me. You don't find many middle-aged cemetery secretaries. They seem to either be young, efficient, and helpful, or the opposite. Fortunately, the latter group is slowly but surely joining the deceased. They have so inefficiently cataloged throughout the years. Wow, that's interesting. Gender. The secretary is nearly always female. Women have the tender, compassionate side that many families need when dealing with a relative's death. Okay. Essential qualities. She should strive to always have a charming smile that never fades, even during times of great stress. The cemetery secretary takes a lot of verbal abuse from distraught family members purchasing a grave, even though it's not her fault that Uncle Johnny decided to embarrass his family by getting killed while robbing a bank. Optional skills. Computer literacy is very important, but I've seen a few secretaries squeak by without it. I mean, I'd be interested to know how long he did this to serve as this, to write a book about it. Cemetery Sexton. Here we go. It's his time to shine. This brings us to the position I held for many years. I was actually quite young when I took the job as cemetery sexton. I'm getting ready to have my question answered. I was 27 years old, having had 4 years of previous experience on the cemetery crew. But the typical sexton is usually at least middle-aged, having worked his way through the system. Gender, nearly always male, but I expect to soon see a woman in the profession. Appearance. The attire is casual. Levi's and a decent shirt usually work well in trying to find clothes that can get dirty but are still acceptable to the public. I wore a hat during the summer, mainly to cut down on my chances of skin cancer. My crew wore the same type of clothing. Essential qualities. What kind of essential qualities did he have? A sexton must be able to supervise a work crew, plus do whatever else is required, such as operating a backhoe and a dump truck. Good public relations skills are a major plus when you deal with grieving people. Pardon me. Working outdoors optional skills, Working outdoors requires a strong tolerance for heat in the summer and cold in the winter. Also, a sexton should be prepared to give up his weekend since Saturday is a popular burial day. That makes sense. In my opinion, this is the best occupation list in this chapter, despite some drawbacks you will read about later. Okay, so, cemetery crew members. These are seasonal workers who are employed from early April to the end of October. One member of the crew usually rises to the top and becomes the assistant sexton, and he usually stays for several years helping out through the winter months. He is usually going to college, very dependable, and the right-hand man, but to reach that stage takes some time and patience. Gender. The crew is mostly male between the ages of 18 and 25. There's an occasional female on the crew, but it takes a special woman to tolerate this work environment. Essential skills. The most important one is self-motivation. Working in a cemetery can be a real drag when people aren't dying, because that leaves the crew with such chores as pruning and weed eating. I mean, this is so weird to read about, right? Each crew member is assigned to maintain a section of the cemetery. If someone is lazy and falls behind, he'll find himself out of a job. Pardon me. Of course, a few workers are so tragically lazy they become legendary. One such soul was supposedly watering the lawn, but I discovered him lying in a wheelbarrow, actually snoring. He still had the hose in his hand watering the lawn. However, of course, when I kicked his foot, he suddenly was watering himself. Yeah. I mean, this humor is killing me. It is killing me, okay? Choosing a crew. Every 2 or 3 years, a great worker came along. I could spot this person immediately. Otherwise, it was somewhat of a gamble each spring to select 3 or 4 young people from dozens of applicants. The type of people I selected might surprise you. I doubt anything at this point will, right? Number 1 I pick is this category. I always picked a small, scrappy wrestler or soccer player first. A kid who has wrestled in high school knows how to work, has muscles, and can follow directions. Yes, he was usually a bit cocky, but I could use that to my advantage because he was often confident enough to develop into the next assistant Sexton. Number 2 pick. Next, I selected a long-haired independent kid, the kind who would offhandedly mention he was the lead singer of his own garage rock band. I would make him trim his hair a little, and I clarified I wouldn't tolerate drug or alcohol use. Then he usually turned out to be a good worker who just needed some direction. Okay, that's it, right? Interesting how he is like the god of the cemetery, right? The grooming the whole, crew to become the next whatever. Okay, with these selections, my summer got off to a good start because the first 2 picks automatically hated each other. They had no choice but to work hard in their own sections. I mean, y'all, listen to this level of toxicity, right? I mean, the things we're hearing in here, I'm like, this guy's crazy. I mean, we know he's crazy, but this is like telling you, who says this? Who puts this in writing? Oh, I pitted them against each other, and that way they worked harder and did this, because he probably got off on this in some way, right? Okay, let's keep going. By the end of the summer, though, they had become good friends. One drawback was they tended to whistle at attractive girls at funerals, but I put a stop to that by threatening to give them a week off without pay. Yeah. Now that is creepy. Who would even think to do that, right? Whistling at somebody at a damn funeral. I've seen it. Whatever. It doesn't surprise me. Anyways, other selections. Let's see. Then I just added a varied group of workers. I had excellent workers who were quite scholarly, and then others who had never cracked open a book. As I said, the keys to success were a good work ethic and self-motivation. Riding lawnmower personnel. I guess it's a book about this, right? Nearly every cemetery now uses riding lawnmowers. I mean, my God, I would hope so. Can you imagine? I had a pair of excellent older gentlemen who mowed the lawns 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, and I hardly had to worry about them. My mowing employees were World War II veterans, and they were as tough as nails. One drawback: these guys occasionally flirted with some of the widow ladies who came to the cemetery, but that was all right. Sure. Burial vault installers, known in the business as the vault guys. These names are not interesting. These are just, if this is true. Again, I'm kind of coming to the point, I don't really know how much of this stuff to believe, right? It's just interesting to read it. Hopefully we'll become back more into reading through it, reading through the lines as opposed to these definitions, but we can also see stuff in here to see how crazy he is. Anyways. Okay, so the vault guys. These men usually work for a private company that contracts with mortuaries to provide vaults throughout a certain geographic area. Gender. Vault installers are nearly always male between ages 20 and 40 years old. Excuse me. Essential qualities. These guys need strong muscles since they must manhandle a half-ton box into a very narrow hole. I mean, that tickled his loins when he wrote that. Why did he have... he knew what he was doing. Must manhandle a half-ton box into a narrow hole. This guy is a perv, y'all. I mean, I am just like, this guy is so creepy. Anyways, But we knew this, right? Okay, I made an effort to become friends with all of the vault workers. Most of them are in the profession temporarily and soon move on to other things. For example, one of my favorite vault guys became a county sheriff and another became a fireman. There were a few long-term vault guys, though. One guy named Jeff was part owner of his vault company, and he was excellent. He could succeed at anything and conducted himself very professionally and efficiently. Another guy named Scott was one of the happiest people I've known. I kept waiting for his enthusiasm to wane, but he ironically loved life and was just a pleasure to be around. Interesting that he's like, I mean, really? I mean, some of the stuff that he says is just like, I don't know. Because you just look at that whole crowd of them, and I mean, they were just so bizarre. And so to hear these things come out of his mouth, where I'm like, oh yeah, this guy has serious like issues. Hearing this is making more sense why he would want to try and be in control of others, and even his private life, and doing this kind of stuff, and this grandiose stuff. I mean, this guy had this grandiose thing going, working in a damn graveyard. I mean, come on. Okay, Headstone Company employees, known in the business as the Stone Guys. I mean, again, can we come up with something more creative? Do we even need to know them as something, right? The Stone Guys, the Vault Guys. What do the Vault Guys do? You know what I mean? Like, really? Anyways, these people bring the headstone to the cemetery several weeks after the burial and place it in the proper location. If there is already a headstone in place, these guys will sandblast the death date onto it. Some people think the cemetery provides the headstones, but a private company handles it. Many private companies sell both headstones and burial vaults, and so the two occupations are often combined. Sometimes the employees will put in the vault, then place a headstone or two while he is waiting for the funeral to arrive. This concludes the summary of who will take care of your body after you die. Don't worry, you'll be in good hands. Okay, that ends chapter 2, and my recording thing is about to end. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to end this one here, and we're going to see if you want to continue with this, drop in the comments. If it's like, nope, we had enough, let me know. I haven't read any further, so I'm discovering this as I go through, but I'll see what y'all want to do. So that's it. Again, so my thoughts on this are, number one, I'm skipping over some of the grammar areas. It's serving self-published. It's serving, that. But again, that's what it is. No shame. Again, I think it's an interesting insight into him, because I'm seeing just some of these behavior stuff, like I just said, the grandiose, I'm doing the da-da-da-da-da, and that's where I'm like, oh yeah, this is like very creepy, very creepy. Some of the inappropriate jokes he's making to the 4-year-old, I don't believe a kid said that. The corny dad jokes that are beyond dad jokes, that kind of thing. And then obviously it's heartbreaking to read some of the stuff about burial things, because you just have to wonder, and I mean, it's almost like he was probably like, I'm going to put my expertise to use in what he did, right? So there's that. Anyways, thank you for joining me for this video. Again, let me know in the comments if you want me to keep going. That's it. I appreciate you joining myself, Roscoe, and that damn sofa. And we'll see you soon.